All right, welcome to Disquiet Time. Like the introduction, this is our second attempt.
Right.
The first one did not go as planned. We ended up losing the recording, so we're recording this one twice.
Right.
All right.
We were, fingers crossed.
Yes, we have two separate recordings going. I'm not clicking on anything. Let's do this.
Right.
All right.
Hear the dogs, but
yeah, you'll probably hear the dogs. You'll probably hear the ferrets from my end. They'll probably break something. I'll have to ferrets. So, but anyway, it'll be fine. Neither of us is in our recording space really, but this will be fine.
I am. That's where you just have to trust that my connection will stay.
Oh, okay. Well, good luck. All right. Well, this week we're going to start with the very spooky idea, that we are all living in a simulation, and we're all just consciousnesses downloaded into a matrix-like existence, which is pretty messed up. So I'm going to let you, since you did the research, take it away.
Yeah, there won't be any surprises for you this time, since this is try number 2.
No, not as many surprises, but I'll still try to think of questions. We'll see.
This isn't really a new concept. Lots of people have kind of been talking about this for a while, that the world isn't real, that we are basically a big game of The Sims.
Right, but I mean,
it's the best way to describe what people are kind of saying. Now, yes, this is something you can find all over Reddit.
Yay, Reddit.
Right, and we all know that Reddit can't really be used as a source. You're a teacher, you would never allow somebody to use it.
No. Well, I've seen students do Reddit.
Right.
No.
We all know not to trust Reddit, but there are other people that actually have real statistics and credentials behind their names that make you at least kind of say, well, it's not just whack jobs that think this.
Right. There's some credibility behind some of the research, but does it prove what they think it does?
Well, but still, there are some very smart people, because we're going to start with one of the first people who actually made a big deal about this online. His name was Nick Boostrom, and I'm once again going to have to apologize to all Scandinavians. He is Swedish, and so I mutilated that.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah, unfortunately, I killed that. It is Bostrom is how you spell his last name. Okay, so Boostrom is a philosopher with a background in theoretical physics, computational neuroscience, logic, artificial intelligence, as well as philosophy. So he's got some impressive credentials. He's not Joe Blow with a six-pack.
This is true. I mean, this is really impressive. You said Oxford. You said,
certainly done a lot of research in this, and he certainly has the background.
Yeah. Right. But he also has the perfect background to, see shadows.
Yes,
he works with it all day. So, of course, this is what he sees. But, no, you're right. He's not just somebody off the street who's like, oh, this is what's happening.
Right. He's not somebody who forgot where he laid his keys and found them in the fridge and decided that the universe must be make-believe.
No, I think that's aliens.
Well, that's possible. Lord knows that happens to me often enough. Also, if we wanted to give a little more to his resume, is that he's also a professor at Oxford University, where he is the head of the Future of Humanity Institute.
Which sounds impressive, anyway.
Yeah. On his website, which we will post links to later, he is the most cited professional philosopher under the age of 50. He is also the author of some 200 publications, including from 2002 Anthropic Bias, which
hopefully that means he's somewhat self-aware.
Right. Self-awareness is good. Global Catastrophic Risks in 2008, Human Enhancement in 2009, and Superintelligence, Paths, Dangers, and Strategies from 2014. So he's definitely put a lot of time and thought into this, and with his background, he certainly would be somebody good to be able to look at this and see if he's seeing something. If he is not allowing himself to be biased by what he already knows. Like I said, we can post some of the links to his stuff later. We also have other at least self-professed very bright people. I'll leave some of that to y'all. Rich guy extraordinaire Elon Musk. He thinks the odds are very good that we are living in a simulation and we're just a bunch of computer code. Everybody's opinion on Musk is certainly going to be different and probably very strong one way or the other.
Yes.
But it is hard to deny that he's an intelligent man. What he does with the intelligence is completely different story. Neil deGrasse Tyson is another one who finds the idea hard to argue against. But to play devil's advocate, it's also hard to argue for, because if we are in a simulation, I'm not sure that we would then be able to see it necessarily.
Right. It would definitely be obscured. Plus, again, you can't prove a negative. So you can't prove we're not. You would have to prove we are in a simulation.
Right.
And back to the self-awareness, both of these guys tend to be highly lacking in that.
Pretty bad history long term. For their levels of self-awareness. I will definitely But
very smart.
That they both have even considered the idea and put some thought into it certainly is at least interesting.
Yes, I agree.
So along with our friends on Reddit who probably don't know, well, we'll just leave that there. There are friends on Reddit.
We don't know their backgrounds or their abilities.
Some of them, I'm kind of surprised that they're able to tie their own shoes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when I was doing some of this research, there were plenty of threads that had been archived, and one of them was actually, this is archived and no longer active because basically people suck.
Oh, no. How bad does a thread have to get archived?
That even Reddit has to, put a cap on it and say, we're not talking about this anymore? Yeah.
Yikes.
So basically, let's just start with the basic argument that these guys have for living in a simulation.
Okay.
Their argument is that eventually we will be advanced enough, or did advance enough in the past, so present, past, it's going to get a little tricky here.
So here's my question about the eventually that I forgot to ask last time. So if we're living in a simulation now and we're eventually going to advance, does that mean there's going to be some time travel?
See, now that's more that some believe that if we are not already in a simulation that we will eventually be able to do this, or
so we aren't now
a simulation and we are a simulation of the people who created the simulation. That would mean that eventually we will also reach some kind of meta stage of advancement, that we will, I guess, advance to the point that we create our own simulations. Because if we are basically the downloaded consciousness of the people who did this before, eventually we will hit that point as well, right?
So we're all individually downloaded consciousnesses. That's a hard word to say.
There's no consensus on that. There's not a consensus on that.
Okay. So some of us are real, some of us are simulations, organically.
Some people seem to believe that basically we are a game of The Sims that you turned on auto and walked away from while you went and had lunch, out of town.
So none of us, we were all just simulations. None of us were actually conscious.
People seem to believe that we are somehow a downloaded consciousness of a far more advanced civilization. Maybe we're a hybrid. There's no consensus that I can find on that.
Okay. Really feeds into, though, that idea that so many people have, that that they feel like, so many people feel like they're the only conscious individual, that everyone else is like an NPC in their life, and that when they're not interacting with them, they don't even exist.
Right. Well,
so and I can,
some people who seem
would definitely
that they are not being
them.
interacted with, they don't exist.
Right. So, but they can't see it that way. So many people are completely incapable of that, which I've always thought was kind of interesting. It's kind of like the same people who can't look at future self and be like, I want to be nice to future self, so I'm going to go to bed on time. I'm going to get off TikTok.
Right.
And it's the same people who can't see that their neighbor, when they're shut in their house, is still existing. And that it's like, do the people who think that we're all in a simulation, do they feel that way?
Well, once again, it's going to depend. Do you think that you are a downloaded consciousness, or do you believe that you're a sim? Do you believe all of us are sims? Do you believe that somewhere we started as a downloaded consciousness and have simply evolved?
Oh, so now we're different from the consciousness we were before.
Anything could be possible. When you
Yeah,
create your
yeah,
Sims, and your Sims can then start a family. So who's the consciousness of the 3 kids they have?
Right. Where did those come from?
So which is it? Nobody has a. If anybody has a strong opinion or any facts to point to it, they aren't able to provide that I've seen. So
Okay.
it could be any combination of this.
Well, it's really, really creepy when you
Right.
think
So
about
are
it
we
too
real
hard.
at all? I
Right.
mean,
Have I never been real? Not only is everyone in my life an NPC, but so am I.
yeah, pretty much.
Oh.
Yeah, pretty much. So we'll try again. Basically, so the basis of the argument is that we will advance enough, or have in the past, that we will replicate consciousness electronically. Now, that doesn't say necessarily download, that we will replicate consciousness electronically, and we'll send it out, or did send it out, into the greater universe to build more universes, to evolve, to grow.
Oh my
And
goodness.
that there could be essentially billions of nearly identical universes.
Wow.
Which then, why some people who then believe in parallel universes kind of start leaning into this theory, because
Well, yeah.
parallel
if you're
universe,
all populating all these universes.
right, and that small changes create, a cascade effect.
Butterflies.
So,
yeah.
So that kind of gives us, we're starting to get a sort of a Venn diagram of people who believe that not everybody is a real person with a real consciousness and a real life, with the people who believe in parallel universes. And we'll go ahead and move on to another thing that people sort
of cut out on us.
use. Everybody is pretty much familiar with that one.
Oh, sorry. Nope. You cut out. We didn't get that.
Oh, okay. Another reason some people say that it points to perhaps having different universes is the Mandela Effect, and I think most people are familiar with it.
Yes.
In case you're not, many people say they remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 80s. And when he actually died in 2013, they were absolutely shocked, because they thought he had already been dead for decades.
Right. How they missed the whole big thing that he was released, I don't know.
Right. Somehow they missed the fact that he was freed. So, some people say, oh, so things like that. Now, other things that you can use as a Mandela Effect, it's not just him, but things like Berenstain versus Stain bears. Fruit Loops, whether Fruit Loops, if the fruit was spelled with F-R-O-O-T with little circles made out of the cereal, or if it was spelled like fruit and only the loops has the cereal.
And I looked that one up after the last episode, and it is spelled currently F-R-O-O-T.
Okay, so the correct spelling, and I've seen it both ways so many times, I can never remember which is right now.
Right now, which one's right? Exactly.
But many people, they believe that it's one or the other, and that it used to be. So they believe that somehow these universes have shifted and changed, and so they are from the universe where it was not spelled with the O's, or it is spelled with the O's, and the opposite is true.
And I was thinking about this earlier after we had finished the first episode. The first time, and I was thinking about it. I was like, is this then, like, if you die in one universe, do you merge with a different consciousness, and therefore you're kind of carrying stuff over, or how do you?
That is a whole different topic.
Okay, or is this a reboot, and so it used to be that way and now it's this way, we fixed something? I mean,
it gets into what my understanding is most people believe it is more like blurred line.
Okay, so that it's just not clear between them always.
Like that's my understanding.
Okay.
And so that that they're just too close, and so sometimes wires get crossed. Literally, if we are just a simulation, correct?
Right.
So the Mandela Effect, people definitely use that, and this is going back to that Venn diagram. So the people who believe in the Mandela Effect and that there might be parallel universes or a glitch, that then has the overlap with the people who believe that we are just a computer simulation, and therefore the glitch is a literal computer glitch creating these events.
Okay.
So that's something that people point to say, see, this is a very logical thing. Another thing that people will point to are inconsistencies in things like physics. A favorite that they like to point out is how, I believe it's photons, if they behave like waves or particles. And it depends on if you're observing them, right? So if you're observing the photons, the two slits in the paper experiment, and if they're being observed, they behave as particles. And if they are not being observed, they behave as waves. And people point to that and say, oh, that is proof of basically bad coding. That the programmer did something wrong, not that we have a fundamental misunderstanding further back.
Right, that fed our theory that we're now going, wait a minute.
Right.
This does not work the way we think it will.
I have more trouble with this one simply because we are saying then that our understanding of the basics of physics is absolutely flawless, and we already know it's not. We know it's not.
Right. That's one of the fundamentals of science, is that we never say we're 100% right. We say, this is what it is right now. Show me something to prove something different. And then we'll understand
as it is. However, because some of the rules of physics and the universe seem to be either inconsistent or completely unfathomable, that's a good word.
Unfathomable.
Yeah, I can't even say it. People do try to point to that and say, oh, see, that's proof that this is a simulation, because clearly
we got it right. They got it wrong.
Right. Clearly somebody...
This advanced civilization, so much smarter than us, got their coding wrong, and we, the Sims, figured it out.
Look, I'm just telling you what other people are saying here. I am not saying I'm buying into it.
Right. It's goofy.
And then, of course, my favorite, near and dear to my heart, is the paranormal aspect, that some people believe that the existence of things like ghosts or psychic abilities and paranormal creatures and stuff is proof that this is a simulation, and that there are things going wrong with the recording or the programming. Things like, because the most popular and most common type of ghost is not a ghost that interacts like a poltergeist. It is a recording. It is the ghost that looks like it's walking halfway through your floor because their house burned down 200 years ago and your floor doesn't match where theirs was.
Right.
And they do
They're just impressions.
Right. They're basically a movie, a hologram, even walking back and forth or whatever. And so the belief then, to tie it into this Venn diagram for the overlap, is that things like that are other parts of the universe, other universes, something else overlapping,
timelines,
and leading through somehow.
Gotcha.
So that this is it's not necessarily, you don't want to call it paranormal in that case, it's just something else has somehow interfered and you're getting this recording. So even like monsters and whatnot, that's bad coding, or Easter eggs, or things like that.
Cryptids as Easter eggs. Ooh.
Right, little hidden things that you can't find unless you go to just the right spot and say just the right thing.
Right. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary.
Right, exactly. Don't say that in front of mirrors.
Actually, there is a mirror in front of me since I'm not in my closet. But I only said it 2 times, not 3. We're good.
Exactly. So, when you start getting into like the paranormal stuff as proof that we are living in a matrix, it starts to touch on issues of like liminality and liminal spaces and that kind of stuff.
Which we will get into in other episodes.
Also a completely... Ooh, sorry. Almost dropped my mic. A completely different episode there, but it does have parallels, and it has things that people then try to use to prove their point. So we have all the different ideas and the reasons and the things that people, why they might think that this is a thing, why it thinks we may not be real and that we are just a simulation. So there's also, how do you then test to see if this is true? Well, first of all, you have physicists and philosophers who are saying maybe still, so any test you're going to be doing is going to be pretty iffy, right? Right.
As a lay person on the ground, you're not going to necessarily prove anything.
And how this topic even came up was that a couple years ago, you and me and a couple other people, I had come across this on Reddit, that there was a way to test it, and you could test it by simply driving around a city that you are not familiar with, or a town, or a location you're not very familiar with. And we did try it. The theory is that if you drive around a town that you are not familiar with, and every time you come to an intersection, you have to randomly choose, right, left, straight, whatever.
That's why it has to be unfamiliar. Otherwise, you would mess it up by
subconsciously, because you would know what's already down there. So if you do this and it gave a number of turns or a window of between
I want to say it was like between 7 and 11 or something like that.
And that within that number of random turns, you were going to come to a roadblock or a dead end or something that would prevent you from moving forward. You would not be able to turn right, left, move forward. You would have to, at that point, be forced to turn around, because you would come to the limit or the end of that part of the simulation for you. This thread has vanished. It has vanished. I cannot.
Makes you wonder if it's one of the horrible people threads.
I have a deep suspicion that it is, because every combination of words that I have tried will not come up with it. I'm usually pretty good at finding almost anything I want on Google, and this has completely escaped me this time. I have spent well over a week trying anything and everything I can think of, and I cannot find this again. So I wanted to know what the number of turns it was supposed to be, or what the window was, and it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
but
it's been archived.
I like the idea in that it says, okay, if you make random decisions, that I guess the implication is that we do still have some free will, but eventually you're going to reach the end of what the simulation can pre-plan for you if you're doing this. And so you're going to reach an end and will not be able to proceed until you back up and go back to where it expects you to be.
Right. Now, didn't you say before that if you got out of the car and just walked forward at that point, at some point you would hit a wall or something?
Yes, eventually you would somehow run out of simulation, and you would get in some weird liminal in-between space. We did not get out of the car. We were busy. We were actually going to try to find a spook light around here, so we
didn't want to trespass in anybody's pasture or anything.
Right, and we did have somewhere to go. Now, when we did this, we did somewhere within that window, and I can't remember exactly where, we did come to a barricade blocking the road.
We did. We ran out of road.
Physically had to turn around and go back.
That's true.
In one sense, it absolutely works.
Yes. But why? The why is it because there's a simulation? Or just, statistically speaking, within 7 or 8 turns, you're going to hit a dead end if you don't avoid it. That's just going to happen.
If you're simply going completely randomly, statistically speaking, how many turns does it take before you're going to come to something that is going to stop your forward progress altogether?
Right.
I cannot.
There's so many things that can do it.
There is certainly I'm sure there's a statistic on this somewhere, and I have been unable to find it.
I don't know who would study that, but someone probably has.
I mean, come on, we have physicists who are actually, just studying whether or not we're living in
Sims. Yes,
somebody probably has, but I can't find it. And so, I do, in my heart, I believe that simply statistically speaking, it's likely that you are going to, after so many choices.
And then back to why a strange place, because in a place, if you're just making random turns, even subconsciously, you're going to be like, well, that's good. And you don't know you're looking for a dead end. You'd be like, well, that's a dead end down there. I'm going to turn this way.
Right. Like the road work downtown. It's like, you would know, even if you were like, okay, randomly, I'm going to turn right at the next intersection. It's like, well, you know that you need to turn right because there is no way forward because that's been blocked off for a year and a half.
Right, exactly.
That road doesn't exist. Something you're completely unfamiliar with in order for this to work.
Yeah, and that again, that makes me think it's statistics that you're going to hit it if you don't know how to avoid it.
Correct, but it was a lot of fun.
It was fun. I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm not sure it really proves that we're in a simulation, but it is an interesting point.
It does, if nothing else, gives you the interesting point that it is statistically likely, if nothing else. So now, that is not the only way to test it. There are other ways to test it that are extremely complex and involve lots of theoretical physics that I am not smart enough to understand. However, there is somebody who is. His name is Tom Campbell, and he has a Kickstarter on, Kickstarter, that his goal, the initial goal was $150,000 for him to do research and somehow prove or disprove.
$150,000. Is he buying like a research lab?
Right. And so he wanted $150,000, and when I looked at it here about a week ago, he had already raised $236,000.
Oh my gosh.
So a lot of people are into this.
Yeah, apparently enough to put their money where their mouth is.
Right. So a lot of people are very interested in this. I could not really understand the math behind what he was saying.
Oh, so he did put out how he was going to test it.
He has some stuff that how he was going to do it, and it was very advanced math intensive.
Very mathy. Okay.
I have not gone past physics 1, so
I never even got to take that, so yeah. Boop.
Yeah, in
Right over
college,
my head.
the furthest I got with my math was physics 1. So I don't think that I am going to be able to understand everything behind it. However, he feels that he can actually prove this scientifically. And in the future, I would like to go and check back and kind of see what his final total was and what he's provided for people's money.
As an anthropologist, I think it'll be interesting to see what the final total is, even if he never does anything with it. Just
right, that many people.
How many people are invested dollar-wise in this?
Right. So this is not a fringe type of thing.
Right.
There are people putting real money towards this.
And I'm not sure I would want to be one of those people, because if I'm a sim, I don't know that I want to know. That really kind of creeps me out. Or like I'm the downloaded consciousness of somebody else in all these different simulations. That just really makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, there's billions of you. It's like, all I have to say is I hope the rest of you are doing okay.
Yeah, hope y'all are doing better than I am most days.
Yeah, like, hey.
like that video where the mom pulls up to school with the kid not even dressed in the car. I'm like, that's me most days.
Yep. Like,
she's not self-involved on her cell phone. She's telling her boss, I promise I'll be there eventually. I'm sorry.
Yep. The kid wouldn't get dressed today.
No, I mean, that's how most days go. It's just green from disaster to disaster.
Yeah. So that's kind of where that is. And so Mr. Tom Campbell, I will be checking back in on him.
Yes. We'll do an update episode at some point.
Yeah, because I'm curious to see what he at least is providing, or whether he thinks he comes up with results or not.
Right.
So we need to check back with him, and apparently we need to go ahead and keep an eye on Mr. Boostrom.
Yes, definitely.
It looks like he has kind of made a career out of some very deep thinking that involves this. So,
right.
Well, he goes with it.
So they're very interesting ideas. I like them, but I feel very skeptical of them, and maybe I'm programmed to be skeptical of them.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to be skeptical of, especially considering how many other wheels this intersects.
Right, and that is really interesting. Until you had started with this is a Venn diagram of where these things intersect, I never would have thought of that. It's like, yeah, there really are a whole lot of things that kind of can tie into this idea.
Right, and the more that people look into it, right, they're like, oh, well, this thing does and this thing does, and so people are like, well, see, it has to be true because there's so many other things to connect to it. But that's a little too simplistic.
Right. Right.
But I'm pretty sure that you could draw a nice little,
correlation.
Daisy or something with that.
Right. It'd be pretty. Right. And the correlation is not causation. Just because they have common elements doesn't mean they're related.
Nope. But people certainly do go out of their way to try to make it look that way.
Yes.
No,
yes.
My favorite does have to be.
It doesn't mean they're not. Yeah. So. But it's interesting. I mean, as we go through and we talk about cryptids, local cryptids, and then maybe, further away cryptids, and as we talk about ghosts and hauntings and, Tilly Willy Bridge and all this stuff, we could tie it back to this. Like, well, how would this be a glitch? How would this be an example of the simulation? So.
Exactly.
So it's interesting.
Well, ghost children and whatnot would probably fit into that quite well.
Yes.
Ghost children that push you uphill.
Yes.
Of course,
park their car. Mm-hmm.
Pretty much everywhere has one of those. Oh, no, that's in my town. It's like, no, honey, it's in every town.
Right. That is a super common one.
that's in every town. So, well, maybe it is then. It's a simulation.
That's interesting. That
the
is it a simulation or
car,
is
they
there
just
something
glitch.
else behind it?
They glitch in and out of every simulation.
Right.
They're also an Easter egg.
Yeah, exactly.
You unlocked the ghost children.
Congratulations. Here's your prize.
Baby powder on your bumper.
Right. Right. Well, and then we can go back to when we talk about liminality, we can come back to this because so many of these are tied to that. They are children who died tragically, or brides. Brides are super common.
Brides are very common.
Like these transitional periods in people's lives kind of lead to these spectral appearances later.
Yes. But that is a whole other topic. Liminality is a huge topic.
Right. And is that somehow coded in to the simulation then, I guess? Harder so it pops up as ghosts? I don't know. Or, you skipped that step, so in this simulation versus that one, so now we're going to have a ghost.
Like, you goofed that up, so unfortunately part of the program's still going to run, even though you didn't do the first part. Right,
you didn't trip all of it, just some of it, so now there's a ghost.
Yeah. Sloppy programming, man.
Yeah. Or bad dominoes, I don't know which.
Nope. Sloppy programming.
I know so many programmers that actually kind of makes me want to go scold them.
Copy paste, something went wrong. They forgot an if then. They duplicated an if then.
Oh my gosh. I lived with a programmer for how many years? I mean, I can't tell you how many codes were, I put a semicolon instead of a colon. And everything was just bogeyed.
Yep. Screws it all up.
It just did crazy things. It's like, oh man, I could not do this. It would make me crazy. So.
Yep.
I guess we should give kudos to our simulator programmers.
Right. They did a pretty good job, right?
Yes. Give them a shout out before we log off tonight.
Yeah. It took a couple thousand years for people to really figure it out. So.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, but really, does all that history exist behind us, or is that part of the sim?
Well, I mean, let's not get that deep.
Was the Black Death real? Was it even real?
Well, if you're a simulation, no, because there were no real people harmed in the making of the Black Death.
Well, this is true. PETA would be proud. Exactly. Speaking of PETA, I should probably go save my ferrets from themselves.
Probably. It happens.
I've heard a couple of things that I'm like,
Yeah, the dogs want me to come out of here too, so.
Okay, we should probably log off. But
all right, well,
that was a good one. Thank you for
the
first
introduction too.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for that. And I guess I will start my part. Since you did all the hard stuff in the research, I'll do the part of getting it uploaded.
Alrighty, cool.
All right, talk to you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.